Meanwhile, at the Legion of Nerd. That was just for me.
Special guest, Trey LaRocca, announcing himself.
Oh, okay. Say your name
me.
before the host. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm Trey.
I'm your host, Robert, and this is Trey
LaRocca, that's me.
LaRocca,
Yeah.
or in Spanish, The Roca.
It's Italian.
So Trey, a thing happened
A thing did happen.
like a month ago, but it's fine. We'll catch up.
You know, I feel like there are some sleepers people didn't pay enough attention to. So what are we talking about?
We're talking about Electronic Entertainment Expo 2016, or as you know it, E3.
I just
For the layman like you.
Yeah, I just thought it was E and then 3. It's just, as far as I knew, that's.
I thought it was the best two letters, the best letter mixed with the best number.
Plus, they look a lot alike. I thought they were just trying to pair them because they get along.
I like the idea that expos just do that. They're like, what letters look the best together, and then we'll figure the rest out after.
It's
like
true.
RTX wasn't actually Rooster Teeth Convention. It was just RT, like, were the coolest numbers or letters they can think of.
Yeah, it's like, and then add an X.
It was
just
at an
makes
X.
sense. Yeah,
That's a Let's Play fashion.
and E3 they were like, well, E because we're doing electronics, and then what looks like an E? 3? It's like a backwards E. You look.
Entertainment and Expo. They could have done EX, Entertainment Expo.
They could have.
But this podcast isn't about the history of the names. This is about the video games.
Mostly because we don't know the history of the names.
Well,
But anyway,
point out our flaws.
let's
Who do you
talk
think-
about.
First, let's talk about who do you think won E3? And there is a correct answer. Based on this list alone, there is a
Sony
correct
won
answer.
E3.
Yes.
I hate to say it. I am a PC and Xbox fanboy, but Sony took it.
They just had so much new stuff.
They did. They came out real hot. I think they had a lot of good stuff poking out. And I think they're doing what I've praised Xbox for doing more so in the past, which is they're pushing electronics forward as well. Whereas Microsoft used to be the only one doing that, but now PlayStation is kind of trying their hand at the innovative side, and I think that's really cool.
Well, Sony's always been a really good company to make hardware, and Microsoft's always been the software company.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the cool hardware, like innovative stuff, is coming from Sony.
Yeah, because I mean, even Xbox with the Kinect, the iToy came out on Sony like way beforehand. It's just
Right.
Xbox was like, all right, let's take this and make it better. So that innovation vehicle used to be Microsoft, but it seems
They
like
had motion control a while ago. There's 2 balls on the big end of sticks.
yeah. I think I definitely preferred the Kinect over the Move. I didn't like having the controllers. I liked the idea of the Kinect. I unpopularly I liked the fighting game that they had.
Well, it's
start
okay
out
to be
with.
wrong.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the hardware.
Alright, let's do it.
Xbox came out with the Xbox Slim, which is like a fourth of the size of the original Xbox One. It has the power station inside of the Xbox now.
Yes, I believe it. I think it was 40% of the size, but the launch edition has a 2 terabyte hard drive as opposed to the max on the Xbox One being 1 terabyte. And for those casual people out there who think you would never need a 2 terabyte hard drive, get a 1 terabyte and then see how you behave with storage when you don't have to worry about it anymore, and you'll realize the merit of the 2 terabyte hard
Well,
drive.
memory is such a weird thing, especially like I remember when I was a kid, PS2 had like an 8 megabyte hard drive, and that was like, it like was a huge amount to fill up.
Yeah.
And now like I have a 250 gigabyte Xbox One, and it's like I have to delete games constantly.
Oh yeah, and I got the 1 terabyte, and I'm already about to max that out because I started downloading all of my games. And also, the games are getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
And now that there's a 2 terabyte, they've got a new ceiling. And
Plus,
so,
with like VR, it's going to be a whole thing where you're going to have more processing power, and more memory.
yeah,
I like that they're finally putting the brick inside, though. That's the biggest part. for
yeah.
me.
Oh my gosh, like there were people I heard complaining. They were like, "I should have done it sooner." It's like, okay, would you rather them just not do it now? Then just keep it there because they should have done it sooner, and now it's too late.
No, do it. You'll never do it.
We stuck with this. This is what we're doing.
This is the end. Now I can't complain against Sony.
Get a tattoo. Hashtag Power Block Forever.
How many people do you think actually did that? There has to be someone, right?
Power Block Forever
that had a
tattoo?
Power Block tattoo, or at least-
Something. Or like there's gonna be like when I was a kid, this was on my Xbox cord and it's just a fat power block with a little light.
I want everyone listening to this to go out and get that tattoo.
Please do. Also with the whole Red Ring of Death thing, I know that doesn't really happen in the new gen consoles, but that was
Right.
caused essentially by the power blocks. A lot of it people would just toss their Xboxes or sell them thinking it was broken when all you had to do was like blow out the sockets that went into the power block.
I heard part of that was also that there were like the clamps on the bottom of the box itself weren't like correctly proportioned.
Yeah, so it
would just overheat.
It's a meaningless mess that I'm very glad that they have figured out, and I love the white. I think it looks really sleek.
I love the white. Listen, it's going to be great.
It's going to be so great.
America's going to be so much better with just the white.
With just the white. Also, a new controller coming out with kind of three handy features. I guess they made some sturdier analog sticks.
Right.
There's the textured grip on the controller and the Bluetooth connectivity for laptops and computers.
And then now you can customize them like yourself online too.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. You can, by the way, buy those controllers for an existing Xbox One when they come out. They will be compatible with both. But that starting price of $399 for a 2 terabyte hard drive does not sound too bad. I think they're doing a lot better than they did when they first set the Xbox One out at that price with only a 1 terabyte option and Kinect. I don't think there was really a groundswell of complaints about the interface. There was a good amount. There was obviously the vocal internet kind of Reddit-y people. But they get that no matter what they put out.
But Redditors only share love.
Oh, obviously. They're very kind.
They're kind, caring people that only love everything that Microsoft will ever do.
Obviously. It's just a bunch of Microsoft fanboys over at Reddit. They love consoles.
Speaking of people not loving everything Microsoft does, why the Scorpio? Here's the thing.
All right.
I understand announcing it to like gain press.
Yeah.
But they had nothing to show.
I don't think they should have done the tandem announcement with the Xbox One S and the Scorpio, because you kind of pull attention away. I think the attention still stayed on the S because people like what's in front of them, but I think you just should have waited on the Scorpio. I think I didn't get too much information on that one just because me, like most people, I was saying that's not even the next step. I don't need to look at that yet. Also don't have a 4K display, and that's pretty much solely for people who have 4K displays,
right?
Which is, I think, why they're waiting to release it so long. I think they could release it at the same time as the Slim if they wanted to, and just not do the Slim, but I think they're waiting for more people to jump on the 4K.
At the very least, if you're going to like announce it, just have the lights dim in the theater, put Xbox Scorpio on front, and then just leave it at that, and have it be like a rumor that builds over the next like year until they actually show it.
Or even sneak
you have
it
people
into
like Todd Howard coming out and being like, "Oh, it's so great! It's gonna be like the perfect machine," and it's like, well, now we know it's not gonna be.
Yeah, well, and what you can do too is you can rely on the internet because they will do this. You could throw it in one of their next commercials for Windows 10 or whatever, where they have like the family playing the games on the Xbox and the computer and all that, and they could use the concept model for the Scorpio, and then you have the internet like, wait, what's that? That looks different, and then you can build it. Companies have started to give up on the mystery because they know it's going to get spoiled, but I think it's the wrong way to go because those spoiled mysteries become these like whispers in the internet that get people super antsy for an announcement, and then that announcement can carry you at least 6 months if they're excited for it to whatever it is you're
Plus,
putting
like,
out.
if you never announce anything, you don't have anything to live up to. So if you announce it as like, oh, it's going to be the best thing ever, it's going to fall short of that. Whereas if you keep it as a mystery and then it's like, well, we never said it was going to be the best thing ever, then it's like, I guess you're right.
It's true. Focusing on the VR, I think PlayStation was the one that had the most hope behind it. Everyone was like, it's going to be the most consumer-friendly, price-wise, all that. And they're right, price-wise. But I still think if I were to commit a budget to VR, I'd go with the HTC Vive. It's kind of tried and true and not owned by Facebook.
Yeah.
And so,
plus the Vive has so much, like people are already using it.
Yeah.
So it already has a familiarity.
Yeah. And people kind of don't like it with all the cameras and all that stuff. I think you're going to get that with most VR to an extent. And the fact that they're not shy about what you got to put around you makes me a little more confident in the experience you're going to get from it. Because obviously they're saying this performance is going to be worth some of the annoying parts of setting it up.
Yeah.
And replaying it in the same spot over and over again. And just the gameplay I've seen has been awesome. Like, just you can now make the most simple games and they're still fun because they have this whole new element to them.
Yeah. Like, we've seen Let's Plays online where people are just, it's literally just working a cashier stand, and it seems like the most fun thing ever. Or even like what they did with one of the games they announced, the X-Wing VR, where now you can be in the cockpit of an X-Wing or literally any cockpit, like any jet fighter game, and look around and actually like hold the stick.
This has been like the dream, dude. This has been sitcom episodes since sitcoms were a thing. Is like the one episode about VR and someone getting trapped in VR.
Hot Pockets have that commercial.
Yeah, it's like everything for the past.
We're in the future, Trey.
Yeah, we do this all the time. We predict these things and aren't that excited, and then they come and we get super excited. But it's like, guys, you could have been pumped about this for way longer, because we've been thinking about this all the time, and it's gotten to the point where we've gotten so desensitized to this fact, but it's still a great fact, that all of these things we dream up in movies have happened. And, like, that's probably going to continue.
Right, it's called sci-fi for a reason, because it's based in some kind of science.
Yeah, and, like, Ender's Game is one of my favorite books. That was written, I think, the 70s. And he was guessing things that came out when I was in, like, high school, which is not too long ago. So, like, just within the past 5 years, things have come out that were predicted and imagined up in the 70s, and it's like blowing my mind.
Well, even just the thing of like a cell phone in Star Trek was crazy future tech.
Yeah.
And they never could have predicted that we would have like smartphones.
Mm-hmm. It's insane, man.
Fortunately, VR in real life is nowhere near as ridiculous and dorky as it is in like sitcoms like that, where people are like running around and they're like behind their couch, and it's like, well, how does that?
They have that. I saw it on Shark Tank, and it's obviously picked up steam elsewhere, where it's like the zero friction pad with the zero friction shoes, and you're in like the harness.
That does seem kind of cool.
Full mobility, and they had a working prototype, like they were using it, and I was like, that is cool. That's something that I think has a limited market, but you can mark up enough.
It'd be super expensive, but it's
Yeah, I think that a business could definitely make that lucrative if they mark it up high enough, which means you're gonna have some high prices.
Well, even if you just had like at an arcade or something, they could bring arcades back that like they all have VR sets like that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if like the places like, I don't know what people have around them, but there's this place called Howie's Game Shack kind of scattered around Southern California, and they have lines of Xboxes, PCs, PS4s. Now they could totally have VR stands, charge a little bit more to use the VR, and that would be killer.
Well, like in the book Ready Player One, which is being made into a movie, they talk about that, and they're like, you know, if you had an arcade where you go in, select a booth, and then you have like haptic gloves, so it's like pressurized, and
stuff is getting so crazy. And they're already putting VR in other stuff. There's a VR roller coaster at Universal. There's they're starting in Utah paintball or laser tag, VR laser tag. It skins the walls, skins the other people, so you're in whatever kind of gamey world you want, which I think is really sweet.
Well, even if it's not like moving around, I like the idea of just like, which Grand Theft Auto has first-person mode, that you can just hit that, and then with your control, you're not moving, you're just controlling it, but it still has the first-person point of view.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, well, enough about tech. Let's talk about the video games that got announced. And
I got one that I'm very, very happy about.
Let's start down.
No one else was.
Let's just start down alphabetically then.
Let's do it.
First one that we're going to talk about, Batman Arkham VR. Announced for the PS4 only. I don't know how they're going to do this, because Arkham games are so like movement based, and you're like jumping around the city and flying, that unless you're just, like I said, controlling it with a controller and just first person, it seems like a weird thing to have.
Yeah, I think this is kind of their first step in integrating VR into really high scale games, which is kind of what I was getting at before, where I think it's a misstep. I think they should continue with these simple games like the ones you have on Steam with the Vive, and work our way up. But I think what PlayStation is doing right now is trying to squash the argument from Xbox users like me, and I've used this argument, and it does squash it to a point, which is that, yes, PS4 has good hardware. It's got hardware on Xbox 9 times out of 10, but the games aren't really optimized for that to make a difference.
Right.
But now they're saying, well, we can have this VR and Xbox can't because their hardware is not exactly matching up. So they're squashing that argument, be it temporarily, while Xbox puts out these new releases and fixes that. And we'll see where it goes from there. I'm definitely sticking with Xbox. That's just my thing. And anything that I can't do on Xbox, I'll do on PC. But I think it's a business move for them.
Well, the other thing they could do too with this, with like these VR games, is sort of have it more cinematic, I guess, where you're just in first person, and it's sort of like a Telltale game, I guess, where you don't control the movements, you're just controlling what the decisions are in first person. which I also kind of fits with the Sony model of like movies being more like, or games being more like movies, like with The Last of Us and Uncharted and games like that.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I guess I'm more so curious because I'm really not putting too much skin in the game. I'm not going to purchase it until it's on a PC platform or an Xbox platform. What the graphics are going to be like on a classic home setup, because PS4 has great hardware, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it has top-of-the-line VR hardware, and it looks like they're really trying to push the graphical limits of VR already with this, so I don't know.
The frame rate will be an issue, definitely.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the countless videos of people just shaking their head like furiously to make it crash.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I'm hopeful for it. I like the VR push, no matter what company it's coming from. So
you just want first-person or VR interaction.
Absolutely, I think it's the future to an extent. For the seasoned gaming or hardcore gaming market, I guess you could say. Yeah, exactly. For those who aren't super casual.
Another game coming out which has controversy this last week, Battlefield 1, which will be released for the PC, PS4, Xbox One.
It's beautiful. They're going even farther back from their roots with Battlefield 1942, which was their World War II. They're going back to World War I.
They said the earliest you can go is 1942, and they said, nope, World War I.
And they were like, and then they realized they were saying no to themselves because they put out the 1942, but they were like,
well, that's the American dream, is crushing your past aspirations and just like going further.
Yeah, that's very true. Battlefield is like,
brought to you by the 4th of July.
This is what Battlefield said. Battlefield is like, listen, Battlefield, fuck you. We're gonna Battlefield it up in World War I. Well, so let's talk about the controversy a little bit.
All right, so originally they had a lead female character to play as in the game, and they said they're pulling her because it's historically inaccurate for a female soldier to be in the war like that, in that capacity, which technically true, and that is if Battlefield is trying to be the most accurate depiction of a war zone with realistic like physics and graphics and everything, that is true. But at the same time, there are a ton of leaps and like fantasy elements to this game. Not like hardcore fantasy, but like
they've been fairly liberal with their use of certain things, like the air warfare, the dogfighting.
Right.
Realistically, in World War I, airplanes weren't very advanced. They weren't really trying to take too many risks like that with them. But I understand where they're coming from, and anyone who expects this to spark a big conflict like that of Gamergate or anything like that, sorry to disappoint you, but in a couple weeks it's going to blow over. The game's going to be great.
Well, here's my thing, is I think they did this on purpose for the controversy.
Yeah.
Because like I know Grand Theft Auto did this all the time back in the day, is they would pay off magazines to make it like seem that parents were really upset about this game because no one was talking about Battlefield 1 necessarily as a better or worse game than any other Battlefields, and now it's all over the press. Yeah,
and I mean, even recently with Overwatch, with the whole Tracer thing where they were mad about the pose, they were like, okay, we'll take out the sexy pose and put in an even more sexual pose, and then everyone laughed, everyone had a good laugh, and they still bought it for their kids, they still bought it for themselves.
Wouldn't that be great if Battlefield 1's like, okay, we're taking out the one female character and putting in 5?
Woo! And they're all going to be half naked, because that's what war is like.
Fuck you, history.
Yeah. Just a bunch of female soldiers from World War I in like brandy bikinis. That would be pretty sweet.
It's just Dead or Alive Battlefield Edition.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. And then you could have little volleyball mini games. You know, when you're bored in the trenches and you need something to do,
this seems like a very Japanese game you're describing.
Listen, it might be.
Listen, you shut up your face.
Listen, you're 100% correct.
Speaking of Japanese games, they announced Dead Rising 4.
Who is excited for that?
who asked for this?
Nobody. But
the weird thing for me is when games like this take a branch away from like real life and like, oh, now we're living in a zombie apocalypse lifestyle or reality, but then he still has a modern smartphone and all this stuff.
It's tough.
Those are weird for me.
Dead Rising, I loved. I was also a kid, but I liked it.
Right.
Dead Rising 2, I was stoked about. Bought it. Again, loved it. Dead Rising 3 was pushing it. I was like, okay, There's not a lot here that I feel like I haven't experienced before.
Yeah, it's just more of the same.
Yeah, even the new stuff wasn't enough. Like, why did I pick up a new title for these few things that I don't use that much?
They showed a mech suit.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just them kind of trying to get on in the mech suit genre that's coming out, I guess.
Yeah, I think the kind of horde style sandbox games has kind of moved away from the mainstream market. I think it's moved more toward what new creators are putting out in kind of indie style. I think that's the only place where it can really be successful at a price point that isn't $60 for the new game. It's more like $20 to $30.
Well, especially since the game isn't necessarily even a sandbox. It's just open world.
Yeah, so
you can't do much with the game once you've completed it.
Yeah, well, and I think they're trying to push to make that more customizable, that experience, but you're not selling this kind of game at a $60 price point, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick it up until it like drops to 20 or if anything.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to have a lot of opening weekend sales. They'll make it over budget. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for another game
Christmas
to bring in
game.
money. Yeah.
A good game your grandma gets you that's just like, I heard you like the zombie games, and you'll be like, thanks, Grandma, sure. This is free for me, so I guess I'll play it.
GameStop will only give me $30 for it when I try to return it, even though it's brand new. So I guess I'm keeping it.
I might as well play a couple hours of this.
Yeah.
And then delete it because my 2 terabyte hard drive is already filled up.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I have those games I play to just blow off steam, but I think that has moved into the games that used to be mainstream that have gotten moved out of the mainstream. Not as much out of the mainstream, but have become less complex. Like Call of Duty has become more casual, and people are starting to get a little exhausted with it. So that's my blow-off Steam game. Loadout, I still play on Steam. That one's a great kind of
They're definitely the sitcom like equivalent of video games where you can put them on in the background, and if you're watching something else that you're more focused on, you can play this in the background, but you're not going to be like involved in the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just the Call of Duty argument's for a whole nother situation.
That's another episode.
Yeah. Tune in next time to hear us bitch about Call of Duty.
They also announced Death Stranding, which I mean, it's a Kojima game, so you're not going to get a ton of sense out of logic there.
Yep.
But like, what was going on? Norman Reedus is in it.
Listen,
there's a baby connected to him from the stomach.
People are super pumped about Kojima being on the game. I think it's cool having a season name behind it. You know it's going to be at least good. Maybe not great, maybe not amazing, but at least good. It's got Norman Reedus. The effects, if they're anything like the trailer, which with recent games like Last of Us coming out, that's not out of the question. It'll be an interesting story game. I like story games, so I'll probably buy it. But I think there is a disproportionate amount of hype behind it, and the Sony exclusivity could kill it for me because it's not a game I'd buy a PlayStation for. You know?
That's fair.
So it
also seems like it's come out really quick since Kojima left Konami, and I feel like it almost seems like someone was making a game, or a studio was making a game, and then Kojima was like, okay, I'm out of Konami, and they said, well, do you want to be a part of this? And he said, sure. And now it's being released as like a big title. Yeah,
and they walked him out like their little princess.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
He's the flagship, I guess.
Yeah, it could have been a plan, too. It could have been like, he's leaving Konami, but he wanted job security. He wanted something he would be doing after for sure, so he locked this in before he left, sort of situation.
And Norman Reedus is like, is this still PT? And it's like, yeah, sure, Norman.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Just put on the suit.
They still had a contract for him, so like, might as well use him.
All right, next they announced Detroit, or they didn't announce it, but they showed some Detroit Become Human, which started as a tech demo, and it was like this video of a girl robot being put together and then ripped apart, and then it was like, maybe she's alive, so let's throw her in the city. They came out with the trailer not too long ago, and now they're showing, I guess what the game's going to be like is you play as a robot detective type of thing. It's Blade Runner. They made Blade Runner the game.
Yep.
Which I'm all for, the whole like dystopian robot game genre.
Well, and we've kind of, with the way technology is going, that argument keeps coming back up. The line of human. There's always movies about it. It's always interesting to see as this tester of kind of where we're at, of where we draw the line for personality, where we draw the line for things like that, what makes a person human kind of thing. So I think it's a cool kind of mind experiment, probably cool bit of fun. and it'll be interesting.
It's gonna be a cool game I play once and then.
Yes.
Which I think they're trying to deter you from playing it once by having like multiple timelines is what they established, and you can like it's a decision-based game. Which what game isn't a decision-based game these days?
Yeah, I mean, and me personally, I don't really hate the play it once attitude because most of my favorite games, because I'm a single-player RPG guy, are play it once type of games, storyline-wise, like Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
I only played through that twice because my memory got wiped. But Grand Theft Auto 5, good story. I really liked the story, but I still only played it once. My favorite game of all time, another Rockstar title, L.A. Noire.
I was going to say Red Dead. But Red Dead's also one of those games. You play it once and you're like, I don't want to go through the game. It's cool to hang out, but...
That one got me emotionally at the end, too. So that was, or the first end, I guess you could say. And then L.A. Noire.
But the redemption.
Yeah.
That was the title.
But, well, the redemption could have been argued for... But L.A. Noire, same thing. It was really good, but it was fairly repetitive, so it's not something you do again. I 100%ed it, so I was like, this is done now. But it's still one of my favorite games of all time because of what it did innovation-wise.
Right.
With the
motion capture.
Animation. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I wonder how much Detroit Become Human is going to actually, like... Because the trailer looks really, like, graphically beautiful, but I don't know how much of that is going to translate into the actual game.
True.
Because we've seen a ton of games where the first trailer comes out, and it's like, this looks nothing like the game.
I'm hoping they take more liberties with how you can communicate. Because with movies, you still have to be careful. You're kind of in a more political atmosphere. But video games, you're a little more free with your questions that you ask and the answers that you provide. So I think there's a chance for them to actually get really philosophical here and get deep to a point that even a movie maybe couldn't,
right?
Because you're in the experience. Whether they will do that or not, that's obviously to be determined when the game comes out. But it's enough of a possibility for me to consider playing it. The issue again is the Sony exclusivity. But
do you not like Sony?
I don't want to buy another.
Do you not
console.
own a PS4? You haven't made it clear enough in this spot.
My brother lives in the same house, so we
just steal his.
Kind of jump around a little bit, but for the most part, I'm on PC and I'm on Xbox. So I get the exclusivity from a business end, but I could see you guys maybe throwing it on PC later, at least. Maybe not Xbox, but PC, possibly.
It also seems to be the same vein as Heavy Rain.
Yeah, it's true. Heavy Rain.
And there was another game that was sort of the same, the one with Ellen Page, where it's not necessarily a game as much as it is an experience.
Like Last of Us?
Not Last of Us, because Last of Us did have still like shooting and gameplay.
That's true.
But a lot of like, look at this piece of evidence. Oh, it turns out the killer was hermaphrodite or something.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the names, but I get what you mean. And
but
I'm cool with those
it's very
games.
Heavy Rain style.
Exactly. I loved Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was a very, very interesting game. It did suck me in. I played a lot of that in a row, like where I'd sit down and say I'm going to play for a couple hours, and then it would get dark, and I'd be like, oh, shit, I've been here for 6 or 7 hours.
Really cool when you first play it, or if you don't know anything about it. But when, like, after you've seen it online, or once you've, like, played it once, it's like, I get it. I'll just watch the other endings online.
Yeah, but it was a whole lot of fun. I love those story-based games. For me, story holds very high on the
maybe we'll do another episode about that, story versus gameplay.
I've heard some stuff from some people I really like, but the words I didn't really like about that. So, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Other games that came we're going to run through like 3 real quick. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. That's sure.
Yeah. I didn't need another Deus Ex game, but it's kind of one of those where, the last one was good, so I'll play it.
Right. The fans that are a part of it will love it.
Yep.
Dishonored 2, another game that sure.
Looks like Assassin's Creed before they really refined it. I think is not what they're going for.
It looks exactly like the last game.
Yeah.
I get it, like they're going for an art style.
Yeah.
But even like graphically, it kind of looks the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, I won't buy it
quickly.
If given it, I'll play it.
And both of those were Deus Ex and Dishonored 2 are on like all PC, PS4, Xbox One.
Yep.
Elder Scrolls Legends, I guess Hearthstone did well.
Yeah, but
Elder Scrolls Legends is a
Blizzard.
game that's set in the Elder Scrolls universe, but it's a card game online
Ooh.
for the PC and the iOS.
I have Yeah, I just have questions about marketing. Blizzard did it, but they are a marketing machine, and they have a hardcore fan base that will play anything they put out. Bethesda kind of has that, but so many different studios and different things. I don't know if we need another card game.
Well, plus Bethesda games have always been very like hands-on, first-person or third-person, sort of like shooty or stabby or whatever games. Whereas like Blizzard games are usually like MMOs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a card game seems like a big leap.
Yeah. You know.
But it'll be a game. Around. It'll be a game someone like people download on their phones just to pass the time.
Yeah, I'll mess around.
People at airports. A big one that wasn't big necessarily is Skyrim Remastered.
Yeah, I think it wasn't made big, but
it seems like they added 2 or 3 mods and then are shipping it as a new game, which seems to be like the model now, I guess, for games from last gen, like Last of Us and other games.
Yeah. I'll play it. I'm always looking for an excuse to jump back into Skyrim. Yeah. So I'll probably
get it just so I can play it without having to like boot up my PlayStation.
Yeah, I've replayed through Skyrim as recently as a few months ago. So I'm always looking for an excuse to jump back into Skyrim. So I'll buy it and I will play it.
And then they're introducing mods on that too, so you can have Macho Man Randy Savage as your dragons.
Well, like that's pretty much the first step. I feel like that should have been a no-brainer for last time is Randy Savage dragons, but that's just me.
Default and vanilla game, right?
Of course. I mean, why not?
And then like Alduin comes down and you're like, it's set in our world.
Yeah. It's a whole different game when they bring it to you with Randy Savage.
He didn't die. He was just sent to the future.
Yeah.
Also, Skyrim set in the future.
Yeah, so basically, Elder Scrolls news. Still no new Elder Scrolls game. So
yeah,
that's all it was for me. Was no new Elder Scrolls.
Everyone was thinking they were gonna have a new one, some like Argonian game or maybe like.
They don't buy convention time very often, so you assume because last time they used that the fact that people knew they didn't buy convention time all the time, so they bought a slot and now it's Fallout 4.
And it was like Fallout 4, Fallout Shelter, everything came out for that.
And this time it fell flat. I was definitely hoping.
Especially since the last Elder Scrolls game they came out with was Elder Scrolls Online, and that really underperformed.
Oh my gosh! And people who play it now, they said it was going to feel a lot more like Elder Scrolls and Skyrim than it actually ended up feeling like. So I just dropped it pretty quick.
Sad news. But Skyrim's going to be cool, and I'll buy it. And
Absolutely.
I'll play it for hours and hours and hours.
They got my money. But they can still.
They got my money, but I'm not happy about it.
Yep.
They also announced that Fallout Shelter will be able to be played on the PC, and that they'll have quests and stuff, so you can go outside of the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think people were already able to do on PC with an emulator or like some kind of phone or tablet to PC.
Yeah. Program. I'll play it. I think I enjoyed Fallout Shelter.
Again, it's gonna be a time killer game.
Absolutely. I think other kind of city builder games have gotten too overblown and over complex, so this will be a cool visit back home to what
I guess it is the only city builder game or equivalent thereof that like has been popularized recently. Fallout Shelter you can pop in like every half hour for like 2 seconds and you'll be good.
Mm-hmm. That microtransaction model though.
Yeah, but you don't have to buy them.
Yeah.
That'll be another episode too. They announced Final Fantasy. I'm not a big Final Fantasy person.
Nor am I. It's gonna hurt a lot of people, but come on, guys.
For Honor got released. That's sort of like a indie, sort of not sci-fi, sort of cyberpunk, but it's set in like steampunk environment.
A little bit. Yeah. Oh, I thought the For Honor one.
There's robots.
I think I had the wrong idea when I was thinking about For Honor.
I don't know.
But
we don't know enough about it.
It's not.
Your favorite game, Forza 3.
Woo! Everyone loves
Forza. For the Xbox One and the Windows 10.
Man. Do you think they're gonna give it away with the Xbox like they do with every other Forza game to get people to play Forza?
I don't know. I think the Forza is gonna be such a big game that you're gonna want to get the console just for it.
Oh, I know, right?
It's gonna push so many movements consoles.
When you give away almost every iteration of the game at some point, I guess they're getting sales. I can't argue with numbers because they have the numbers, but I feel like if you have to give it away every time.
It's like every other sport game, which they also announced Madden 17.
All right. Hey.
Which, like, it's not bad. It's just, yeah, of course they're going to make another one.
Yeah, I mean, Forza, I don't think we needed it. Madden makes sense because, you know, with every new roster, you want some new experiences, new players. There's quick Madden corner. because people don't like sports games
Sure.
except for me and other casual
No, just you.
sports. Yeah, pretty much just me. Quick Madden corner. They're improving franchise, keeping draft champions, which for all you Madden people, if you played Madden 16, I know you love because it's awesome.
Isn't there a story mode? No, that was FIFA. Never mind.
I mean, there is a career mode. NBA 2K has done a better job with the story mode because they put some effort into it and actually made you like a little character and a little movie they put together. But yeah, Madden 17, it looks good. I'm
You're
gonna
doing
buy
a
it.
thumbs up for an audio.
Yeah, thumbs up for the audio podcast. But listen, you're gonna buy Madden 17 because no one's gonna play Madden 16 next year. So suck it up.
Well, now that Trey's soapbox has been thrust from away from him,
It was my Madden corner
they also announced God of War.
because we needed another one of those.
Yeah, I don't know who's asking for, like, this release has a lot of games that nobody asked for in a bad way and nobody asked for in a good way.
Yeah, I think they're just stacking the card with Sony, but they did switch up the gods. I think they're
Right.
focusing more on Norse gods.
It's Norse mythology. It still looks like it's Kratos, but he has a bigger beard and he's got a kid.
Listen, Kratos with a big beard is all I've ever wanted on another Sony exclusive. that I won't
He got
play.
rid of that little chin strap goatee.
Yeah, Kratos is beloved.
Historically, that has separated the Greeks from the Norse, was their facial hair.
Of course,
And that was it.
that's the only difference. So Kratos,
He's gonna fight Thors and Valhallas, and
all of them.
it's gonna be just like God of War, but he doesn't have Blades of Chaos. And
Yep. That's
Also
another
dragons?
one. Dragons, probably. I mean, Norse. That really does go in with the Norse.
you see a dragon
mythology.
in the trailer at the very end.
Yeah, then it's probably there. It's another one where we can complain or wonder why they put it out, but people are gonna buy it. Kratos is a marketable character.
Didn't
and
go for a
he's
title.
big.
Didn't go for like a subtitle or anything. They just straight up God of War.
Yeah, I think we've kind of. I guess we've kind of hit that point where we just start naming things what they were before, like even like Battlefield 1.
Well, Battlefield 1's almost like a really funny title because
Yeah,
it's like, hey, we could still have a 1 because we never technically had a 1.
that's true. We had 1942 and then all that.
And then
all that
2,
fun
and like,
stuff.
yeah. So you can technically go back and do that.
Yeah, so I think.
It'd be great if that like started a trend, like it was just God of War 1 now.
Yep. Everything just goes back to 1 because you never named the first one 1.
Yeah.
So now you can make a
Halo 1 will be the next Halo game.
Yeah, but you know,
And God of War is obviously going to be a PS4 exclusive.
obviously, yeah. So whether I'll play it is up in the air, but whether the public will play it, it's pretty much a guarantee. God of War games
Yeah.
typically do okay.
It's been so long since the last big God of War. I mean, they've had like several smaller, like
Mhm.
Ascension and the PS Vita games or whatever.
Yeah,
But like God of War 3 was the last big one, and this seems like it's returned to that style.
yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, they'll end up in the they'll get in the black with that one. They're
Listen,
not
he's
gonna have to
gonna
worry about
they're
under
gonna come out with a trailer where he's fighting Thor, and it's gonna be the biggest thing on the internet, and it's gonna be
budget.
they're fine.
That's true. I wonder how that works when you take Thor and Norse mythology. If the intellectual property Marvel has on Thor is still in place, that's a
No,
whole
they
other
own
thing,
they
but-
own. That's for our other podcast, the Inner
Just-
Circle.
just Marvel-y Thor.
Yeah, they own Marvel Sci-Fi Thor.
Got
Fantasy
it.
Thor is still up in the air for anyone who wants to use it. I think.
I'd assume
I'm not a
be
lawyer.
that would be a very tough. Yeah, I don't think you can because it's technically a religious thing. You can't IP religious things, so I guess they couldn't if they wanted to.
Speaking of religiously themed games that aren't really religiously themed,
It's true.
Halo Wars 2 got a trailer. And
yeah,
then,
so Halo, if you don't like the Halo story, which why are you playing Halo? But it's not
Well,
even
this one
really
takes
Halo,
place-
Yeah,
like decades before, and it takes place in the Ark, I
Mhm.
guess. And they came out with the beta. You can download it now. It's a fun beta. I was playing it. It feels real fun. There's 2-person campaign or multiplayer,
mm-hmm.
so you get a partner commander and then fighting against 2 people.
It's a very command and conquer type thing,
Right.
Really. So that's my issue.
It's
I play classic command and conquer games, and that's my fill of that format, really.
Well, you know how like normal Command and Conquer games, if you're losing, you can guarantee like you've already lost, kind of thing.
For the most part, yeah, unless you're a beast like me.
Halo Wars 2 feels more balanced, where
Okay.
I like all my bases got destroyed, and I had like one small base with nothing on it, like way in the corner, and our team still came back and we won.
Well, there you go.
So it feels definitely more balanced, I suppose.
I'll play it. It's got the Halo name on it. I love Halo.
Right.
It's on console, so it'll be something that I can like play Netflix on my laptop while I mess around on Halo Wars 2. So,
but you'll miss the story.
I don't know if there's too much of the story to the top-down games. Listen, no one's crazier about the Halo story than... Well, there are more crazy people than me, but I do love the Halo stories.
No one's more crazy than some guy that's crazy about him. Anyway, I think...
Yeah, I'm somewhere north of the middle about Halo, so I am very invested in that story, but the Halo Wars games, obviously, they're not a necessity in the Halo story.
Yeah. It's not going to be like, now I understand why Master Chief is the way he is. It all came together. It's definitely an anthology game.
Yep.
It's coming out on Xbox One and PC.
It's tough, man. The ones that are solely on Xbox One or on Xbox One and PC, I think it's the reason why Sony kind of won. There's nothing that everyone wants to play on there. You have Halo Wars, and you have Forza, and you have Dead Rising. These are very,
the exclusive
very...
ones are very...
Yeah, they're not. They're underwhelming, but Xbox has done this before, where they've taken hits on one conference and come out to fight in the next one. So,
well, I feel like the thing with Xbox games is it's a console you buy to play cross-platform games, not necessarily the exclusives. PlayStation has a lot of exclusive games that you have to buy the console just to play those games.
True,
but Xbox is more like, oh, I want to play the game that's on every platform, so I'll play it on Xbox.
Yeah. Also, I do think Xbox used to have way better exclusives. When Gears of War was in its prime, which is also the timeline that Halo was doing really well, which it still is, but Halo was doing even better. And those were two very big games to have exclusive to you, and still are. But PlayStation has taken care of the hardware already, so now they're focusing on all the games, and Xbox is now just trying to prove, hey, listen, we can still do hardware, and they're pushing their consoles more so than these exclusives.
Well, also, Xbox has always been like more user-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
It's less of like a game station. That's the name of this show.
It is. And
more of a like, hey, I have like 10 friends coming over, we can all go on the Xbox, and it's just in the living room.
Sure, it
fits better in the living room than it fits in like your room.
Yeah, it's an all-around entertainment thing, and it's something that you enjoy looking at. Like, the interface just looks better. Sorry, PlayStation people, but you have to at least give that one up. It functions quicker. There are lots of reasons why the Xbox is a better fit for some people.
Plus, honestly, the name's better.
Yeah.
I'll go that far. Not the new Xbox One, but like the idea of Xbox.
Yeah. So, I think they're just trying to make up ground on the hardware argument.
Anyway.
Yeah, so
back
for more games.
Injustice 2. I wonder if they're going to go the same timeline as Injustice 1, because it looks like it might be different.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's sort of like the same idea.
Yeah.
I feel like this game would have done really well if it had came out right before Batman vs. Superman came out.
Yeah.
I don't know why they...
I mean, that would actually be cool, because you could have your friends, like...
You can literally play out the game, or the movie.
They could have made that a whole marketing scheme of, like, post your results, like, you play with your friend, whoever wins, like, post who won between Batman and Superman. Too late.
Would have been great marketing. I guess maybe the game wasn't
also
out in time.
Haphazardly throw Wonder Woman in there, if you can.
Yeah, just at the end, she comes in and it's like, now we're friends.
Yep.
With a cool guitar solo riff.
All right. We are to my favorite announcement.
Legend of Zelda.
Oh, no.
There's a new game. Wii U and Nintendo NX.
Man, I'll buy it.
We don't need to talk a lot about it. But
I'll buy it because it's Zelda. I will buy it because it's Zelda.
I've never been a big Zelda guy, personally.
I was initially a big Zelda guy for the reason that 50% of people my age, around late teens, sorry folks, have been big Zelda people.
Baby.
And that's because they felt like it would make them way cooler in the nerdosphere.
Right.
So I started it that way. Which,
you're describing a hipster, is what you're describing.
Yeah, pretty much. And it worked out. I liked it. It's the same thing as my little foray into comic books and into anime.
Okay, so you know a lot about Zelda and stuff then. Is it traditionally open world like this game looks like it's going to be?
It depends what you're talking about. It's, for the most part, technically open world in the same way Pokemon is kind of open world, but it's very linear in the sense that the story pretty much takes you where you need to go.
Well, there's a lot of, like, from the trailer, there's a lot of, like, stretching land of riding your horse.
This is definitely stepping that level up because I think they're trying to bring it more into the mainstream and less into the Zelda niche than it was before. I think they're playing it very safe with the new Zelda game. That's the only thing I have a problem with. Also, I'm not going to buy a Nintendo console.
There's also a theory... Drop a pencil. There's also a theory going around that this game takes place in the Zelda timeline where the hero failed because there's the Master Sword that's all, like, rotten over and just a bunch of stuff. Look up Zelda timeline splits or watch that game theory.
Yeah, I will watch YouTube videos about it. And I will play it probably all the way through at a friend's house, but I will not buy a Nintendo console for it. That's the thing. Nintendo needs to put out games that make me want to buy a Nintendo console.
But all the Marios. 18,000 Mario games you can play.
God, dude. They need to...
And the Mario Maker, where you can make 18,000 other Mario games.
Well, I mean, Mario Maker's on other consoles, too. That's the thing.
Is it?
I think it is. I don't know. I'm not going to buy that. And some big characters deserve to die. Not because they're bad, but because you need to put things down.
Doesn't Zelda die, though? Isn't that the whole thing with Zelda, is it's like jumps in timelines?
I mean, like the franchise.
Oh,
you need to
Zelda?
put to rest a franchise sometimes. Zelda, I'm talking more when you mention Mario.
Okay.
We're done. Mario's had more than his own share of games. They need to know how to put to rest a franchise.
But we don't have the Mario... oddly enough, we don't have a Mario game where he's actually a plumber. We've had him as a doctor.
I don't know.
Ghostbuster.
Listen, maybe make a game that addresses all the theories, have a little bit of fun with it.
That'd be cool if they had one last game that was like, by the way, all the game theories, totally right.
Yeah.
Just like go crazy.
That would be really cool. Just, like tie up the strings and then bounce. I think that's what they could do. That's something that I would buy.
And then they make another game that's basically the same, but it's a different guy, and you'd be like, that's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. That's their thing, very arcade style.
So what game were you excited about?
Woo is my favorite one. Because I am a Rockstar / Take-Two fanboy. Mafia 3 looks amazing, has looked amazing since the beginning. I'm stoked.
I remember playing the original Mafia game, and it was like 2004, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty fun game. It was just about the Mafia. And then nothing for like a decade, and then it was like Mafia 2, and now Mafia 3 like a year later.
I played Mafia after Mafia 2 because of that reason. I was like, Mafia 2, and I saw the trailers, I was like, that looks sick. And then the one person I asked at GameStop, I was like, do you need to play the first one? He's like, no, you're fine.
He was like, yes.
Yeah.
Buy the game. That's a terrible GameStop employee.
He actually threw it at me.
Why isn't he selling you games?
He threw Mafia at me.
Report him.
Yeah. But Mafia 2, easily one of my favorite RPGs. I have a lot of those, though. Most of them are from Rockstar. Sorry, fanboy alert in that corner, but...
He's literally wearing a Rockstar like shirt. He's drinking Rockstar.
I am. I have a tattoo of a star around
next
both
to a
of
rock.
my nipples. Yep. So Mafia 3 looks gorgeous. For those of you
takes place in
who wanted diversity,
funky 70s.
Yeah, it's in what is meant to emulate New Orleans. We have a little more racial tension in there. It's now a half black gentleman, which is an interesting take on it. I like that they made him mixed race because it kind of, in that timeline, he's in the black community, but also kind of a little bit of an outsider in that sense, but he's also not enough of an outsider to fit in the others. So it really works with this thing they're doing with lieutenants from different gangs, the Irish, the Italians, the black mob, and making you jump around and kind of make friends in each because he really doesn't belong in any one. The way that Vito did in Mafia 2, he was in the family the moment he wanted to be, whereas Lincoln Clay, who's the main character of Mafia 3, is very much finding his way. And I think Mafia 2 is great, but I think that's a way better platform to start an RPG on, especially one that you're trying to add diversity to, because just upping the stakes in that way on each decision is just really cool. And Vito is coming back, as you can use him as a lieutenant.
And Rockstar's never been like afraid to push the limits on that kind of like racial tension or like GTA 5. The first like 10 minutes has like 18,000 N-words.
Yeah.
So
well, and I think that even in Grand Theft Auto, people think that it's all jokes, all fun, which it's through jokes and hyperbole that they're still giving off these serious messages.
Satire.
Yeah, and then Mafia kind of shows you the roots of their thinking. I think Mafia is where they're much more pure with it, whereas they're using a satirical vehicle for Grand Theft Auto. Mafia is where you're going to see the real heart of what Rockstar does, which I think is really not even just talks about how people think, but instead really shows you how you think when if you were in these situations.
I think that's sort of Rockstar's model is like, we're introduced this idea in a game, in a like Grand Theft Auto game, and it's like, look, it's funny because it's satire, and then they'll be like, no, but seriously, this is what it's actually like.
Mm-hmm. And like, it's that freedom, I think, and that's a lot of
Plus, they make more money than God, so they can like afford to just.
My gosh,
they'll be like, hey, let's talk about like the horrors of real life terrorism, and they'll be like,
yeah,
we already got money.
They literally have a spoof of America's Next Top Model that is America's Next Top Hooker in Grand Theft Auto. That is the best, and it's been around since Grand Theft Auto 3 or 4, one of those two. So they've been pushing these limits. Mafia 3 is going to be great. I really, really love that kind of historical thing. I love the Italian Mafia. It's kind of a historical thing for me that I love, but I do like that they're diverting from it so it doesn't get stale. That you can still be involved, but they're opening up the scope a little bit with the New Bordeaux, New Orleans emulate.
We should get you like
with all of this,
or an actual Rockstar tattoo.
I
That'll be a stretch goal.
Do actually plan to get one.
1 million subscribers, you get a Rockstar tattoo.
I will get a Rockstar tattoo, and we can live stream that. I will absolutely get a Rockstar tattoo.
Live stream, you're crying.
Get 1 million. I will cry like a baby.
Mafia 3 is going to be on all consoles. Let's go to the next one. Mass Effect Andromeda.
Ooh,
got some.
We've been waiting for this.
Release. I like that the game doesn't seem like it has like a villain necessarily, or like an end of the world scenario. It's just like, hey, we're going to explore this new galaxy.
Yep, and I think that's the perfect way. If they're last time people got butthurt because they kind of cheated the diverse ending thing, but I think
there's no way they address that in this game. There's no way they're like, oh, by the way, the definitive ending was this. Like, they're not going to mention Mass Effect 3 at all.
I think it's smart not to, but I think this is where they'll redeem themselves.
They'll never mention the ending.
Yeah, I think this is where they'll redeem themselves. I think what they're doing by doing that is it's going to kind of be a you pick where your conflict is.
Yeah.
So even if there is one definitive end to each conflict, you at least pick the path that takes you.
Yeah, or they'll do what they did with like Mass Effect 2 if you didn't play Mass Effect 1, where they'll like give you a comic and it'll be like, what did you do in the first game? And it's like, cool.
Yeah, so I think they're opening up a lot of possibilities. I think the fact they're keeping the goals vague is great.
It feels like Star Trek, the game that we always wanted, where it's like just go to different worlds and like explore, and also like these aliens are crazy and the frontier of space is dangerous and insane, but it's also fun.
I think it's great. And they're marketing this so well. They're not overdoing it because they know they don't have to.
Right.
It's perfect. I think Mass Effect is going to do terrifically.
The graphics look really cool.
Oh man.
The
always.
Asari graphics looked really cool. Her reaction.
I'm stoked.
That's going to be released presumably on all consoles.
Yep.
They also showed a trailer for Prey, which has apparently nothing to do with the other Prey game and trailer that came out for the Prey 2. It's a like complete reboot, just the name. It was that one where like he wakes up and it's the future, and then like he looks at his eye and it's like starts to get more and more red, and like by the end it's like bloodshot red.
Yeah.
Nothing about it. It's just like looks like a cool concept, I guess.
Yeah. Never really got my hands on any Prey games, so it's whatever. But it's on all consoles. I'll probably, if it comes on like Xbox Gold.
Yeah, you'll buy it.
Discount.
I'll play it. Yeah.
I'll buy it.
Resident Evil 7, or as I like to call it, PT2.
Yeah. They really PT'd it up, man.
Which I'm glad they did, because Resident Evil used to be a horror game when games like couldn't really do horror that well, and then they just went into like shoot 'em ups. This is the first one that looks like it's actually going to be scary.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think they did a smart thing. Too. Yeah, they did a very smart thing. Demand was created, and then PT kind of fell, but the demand was still there. People still want PT.
And a lot of games have been trying to pick up that PT mantle of like first person, going through the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So And it's kind of like, what's better than a franchise already established that you know can do things well?
Right.
They have dropped the ball at some points, but you know that they can make a very good product and get people to play.
That said, based on the beta, I don't know, and maybe the beta has like nothing to do with the actual game, but I don't know that it has anything to do with like the zombies or Umbrella Corp or whatever.
Yeah, which is interesting, but I think they've made it very clear
It's
that they're
fine,
not
though.
committed to staying on the storyline kind of thing. They're playing around with it. I think it's interesting. I think once you get to Game 7, you need to start messing around with your base. So.
I feel like they put Resident Evil, though, just as like the established franchise and then said, okay, let's just do a totally different thing.
Yeah. All right.
Looks cool, though. Looks real creepy.
It does look creepy.
It doesn't look like it's anything paranormal either. It just looks like it's like hillbilly nonsense.
They're doing what Resident Evil's done a lot, which is, hey, there are new graphical capabilities. Let's gross people out.
Right.
It's like, yeah, let's do it.
And I do like that horror game model of you're a first person, you're in this weird thing, and it's very compact, and you just have no idea what's around the corner.
Yeah.
I think especially with like VR. Imagine like those kind of like PT on VR, or like I saw a Photoshop picture online a while ago when HoloLens was first announced.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine HoloLens in your house with PT? Like, so when you're walking around your house, it's just Sarah or
Dude, I would not be
whatever.
able to sleep ever again. But if you guys do want Resident Evil 7 VR, buy Resident Evil 7. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Right.
You see what they're doing with Arkham. They will do it if you give them money.
They'll probably do it anyway, just as like a first-person point of view type of thing.
I don't know about with Resident Evil. I don't know if it doesn't do that well, if they'll put that kind of money into it. But guys,
I don't know how they would do VR with that though, with like movement, because the
Buy
way
it.
VR with Vive does is you have to like teleport to the next part.
true.
But if you can't, like if you teleport past the jump scare, it'd be really hard to maneuver.
They could
It could be on rails, but then
on
that
rails.
kind of
That's kind of what I was thinking. Was either on rails or they mess around with the controls and they have like a step forward and step back control.
on rails could be really scary too, because like you're like your character starts moving and you're like not ready for it, or you're like you don't want to go down that hallway, but it's making you.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. But if you want it in VR, this is me suggesting. Again, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to beef up Sony. I don't really care for them that much. But if you want Resident
But I love
Evil
Sony.
7,
On the other hand, I have a Sony tattoo next
Yeah.
to my Rockstar tattoo.
Yep, it's in there. It's actually one I made out of scars. I used a cactus and I carved it in.
Okay.
I like the Native Americans. If you want Resident Evil 7 VR, buy Resident Evil 7. That's usually how it goes. They respond to demand, so demand it.
That's true. South Park Fractured Butthole.
I am
Get it?
so happy about
Trey,
this
do you get
game.
it?
I do get it.
Because Civil War came out.
Listen, guys. Matt Stone and Trey Parker don't make bad things.
I heard them say though that apparently going forward they want to focus more on video games.
I'm fine with that. Again, they do not make bad things. If you name something that they made that was bad, that was just really bad, and not bad for comedy's sake, like Basketball or Team America, World Police, being bad for comedy's sake, that's a whole different thing.
Well, I think
those were
too-
still hilarious and did what they needed to do.
I think too Trey and Matt have such a like understanding of what their comedy is, and they
Oh
just
my
stick to
gosh.
it.
And all the way down to like everything about them, their politics and all that. It's all freedom based. They want to make sure you know that you're not the person who thinks the most fucked up. They are, and they'll let you have that freedom to explore their weird minds.
Escapism through like horror.
It's true. They do it all the time. Like they do it through South Park. They do all this stuff where it's a genuine look on things, but they're like also making you not feel bad about thinking about it, because they're like, look at how far we take it, so you're allowed to think these things. And when it comes to this video game, not nearly as philosophical. It's just a fun, simple game. They're adding that space and time element to it, which I think is pretty cool.
It's also like based on like Cartman and all them like superhero personas that they have on the show, and I guess it's partially a spoof off of Civil War, and the idea that every superhero has to fight now.
Yeah, so if you want kind of a quick thing...
It's more
with the South
commentary,
Park
I guess.
game- Yeah, so if you don't know what it's really about or whatever, they made a game called Stick of Truth. It was a fantasy spoof. The kids were
Right.
playing fantasy. You were the new kid, and then you rose up through the ranks. Now, basically, it happens right after that. They're not playing fantasy anymore. They're playing superheroes. The trailer is this whole spoof on Marvel's structure for superhero movies. I really suggest you watch it. It's very funny. And it is. It's a Civil War spoof. One side of the heroes is fighting, and then another is fighting against them, basically on how they should structure the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or their fake Marvel Cinematic Universe, with their own superheroes. You pick what kind of hero you are. There's the space and time aspect to it, which I think is cool. They're not trying to make it too complex, but they're adding something.
It's just funny and satirical,
fun.
I guess.
Yeah, and it's probably going to have another scene that strikes up controversy, just like the last one. So, yeah.
They'll be cut in like 18 countries.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to buy that game.
Speaking of non-ironic superhero games that you're in love with, they announced that Spider-Man game for the PS4.
And it's a Sony exclusive. Oh, that hurts so bad.
And also, I think this is also a response to the movie, because now Marvel Studios owns part of will get part of the profit from this Tom Holland Spider-Man. I think this is a way for them to sort of get more money from Spider-Man without having to share it with Marvel.
Yeah. Biggest criticism of the game that I've heard so far.
Weird costume?
The costume.
It's a weird costume.
I love it. Unpopular opinion, but I love it. If you watch this trailer...
It's not a bad costume, it's just weird.
I think it looks good, and I think they've gone classic Spider-Man, and then they've gone kind of grunge dark Spider-Man, and then they've gone futuristic Spider-Man.
It looks futuristic Spider-Man.
But Spider-Man is a very street hero. Well, the classic, he's kind of a nerd, but as you move into now, he's a very street hero. He's this kid from Queens. That's what they're pushing, is he's this New York poor kid from Queens. This is a very street costume. It's got the graffiti-esque spider that's white, that really stands out in the suit.
It does seem like a hipster would make that costume.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I love the costume. I think it's perfect for what they're going for. And since they're trying to set it aside from the movie universe, obviously, and the comic universe, it's very natural for comic book heroes and heroes in general to change their costume to signify where they're at as a character. You
can tell as well that they said, okay, we're going to make a Spider-Man game. We can't use that costume because it's going to be in the movies, so let's make a completely different costume.
Yeah, and even if they could, I still think it's smart that they didn't, because when you move the superheroes into a new world, they always have a different costume. And even Spider-Man in the same universe, very linearly, if you follow one kind of timeline, he still has a bunch of different costumes.
Yeah, he changes it
still changes all the time.
Webbing underneath the armpits.
Dude, I love classic 1960s Spider-Man with the webbing armpits. I love it.
You have 3 tattoos. You have a Rockstar tattoo, a Sony tattoo, and a Spider-Man tattoo across the chest.
I'll get a Sony tattoo on my butt as a stretch goal. I will get... You guys can pick the cheek. It'll be great.
The other thing with the Spider-Man game is it looks like it's more street-based. It doesn't look like there's a big Electro villain or Green Goblin. It just looks like it's fighting crime.
Dude.
Which was a big part of
true.
The best Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2, was it's just fighting crime.
Man. I love Spider-Man, if you guys couldn't tell. Favorite superhero ever. I'm stoked for this game, and you're totally right. I think save the villains for movies where you can really build the character and you want to show that emotional relationship. Just fight crime in the games. Yeah. Use villains you've already used, ones you already know about for the games, so you already have that motivation. But it's a superhero game, so just make it fighting crime and having
Plus, you get more stuff to do. It's not like... Because most of the time when it has a big bad in the game, you spend the entire game with the story, and then you beat the big bad, and then it's like, hey, by the way, there's some street crime, but you don't really have to fight it, and also it's sparse, and whether or not you're going to find it. This one seems like it's going to be like, you fight them, and then also, you never stop.
Yeah.
It'd probably be randomly generated or something.
And they're obviously going to have main villains, and I think there is room for a superhero game to really get you in the mind and emotion of a superhero.
But you can have, Kingpin or, Hammerhead or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't need,
and this isn't framed that way. It's not framed as a game that's really going to get into the emotion of Spider-Man. I think if they want to make that game, they can, but this is not that. I think a good villain would maybe be... whatchamacallit? The Enforcers would be good because there's a few of them and it's a little team and you can work with that.
Kingpin. Maybe Spider Slayers.
Yeah, I'd say the Vulture.
Well, it's also made by Insomniac, which has historically done the Sly Cooper games, so it looks like it's going to be more focused on fun gameplay rather than heartbreaking story. Which
with Spider-Man, there's a lot of depth to him in the comics if you really want to get into it. But for the most part, he's this quippy, sarcastic, very kind of have fun with my powers kind of superhero. And every time he's in battle, he does that.
Even if you wanted to go dark with this game, you could, because he's such a laugh at the pain character that you can have him be happy-go-lucky the entire time, and then at the end break down.
And even at his weakest points in battles, sometimes he's still making jokes and he's still having fun with it, and he uses it to kind of throw off. I think it's great. the way they're framing this game. I think it'll be great and awesome. And I keep saying great.
It just looks like
It'll be great.
people. I think games and movies are maybe finally figuring out what Spider-Man is, because for a long time they've just not known what to do with him.
They do not hit the mark, man.
And they're finally like, oh, fun. I remember that.
Man, I remember when superhero movies could be about fun. It's like Christopher Nolan revolutionized superhero movies and also ruined them to an extent with that, like, you can't make fun superhero movies anymore.
We'll have another video about that, another episode.
It's true. Got a list now. Another game.
The last game we're going to talk about announced Watch Dogs 2.
Watch Dogs 2.
Which looks 10 times better than Watch Dogs 1.
And Watch Dogs 1 is
Ubisoft,
a very good starting bar for that.
Ubisoft always does this, where the first game is testing the waters, see what happens if you do this, and then the second one blows it out of the water. Assassin's Creed did that, where the first one was a cool game, but it gets boring after a while and it's glitchy, and then Assassin's Creed 2 is like the best Assassin's Creed game.
I could argue Infamous did that too. I think Infamous 1 was a better starting block than most others, but Infamous 2 did that really well. That was actually a game where I was really glad that my brother was a Sony guy, because I definitely
Infamous is a really good game.
Hopped on his PlayStation to play the Infamous games. They were great.
Watch Dogs 2, you play as a African-American nerd who wants to break stereotypes on both sides. So he's a hacker activist or a hacktivist and is trying to take down big government or something. It's
a Watch Dogs type thing. So you can kind of give it a political spin on either side.
Yeah.
But more or less trying to fight corrupt government.
Right. It's also, this seems like Assassin's Creed in modern day game we were always promised.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. I loved Watch Dogs 1, and I think it basically seems like they opened up Reddit and were like, all right, what are people complaining about? What do we need more of? And they just put it there because they have so much more that you can do. Watch Dogs was the original, not as sandboxy as you'd hope. There wasn't as much that you could mess with as you would hope in a video game. And I think Watch Dogs 2, they're really upping what you can do.
Yeah. It seems bigger world too.
Yeah, and the stakes. I think they're doing really well with the hacktivist stakes, especially since you have prominent hacktivist groups like Anonymous, namely.
You get to do more stuff with the hacking. It's not just like hit the button on your phone and whatever does whatever.
Yeah.
You can like control cars and you can make stuff do different things.
Yeah.
You can make a forklift drive a car into the water. You can control like a little drone and have it like scout the area for you.
Yeah, it's like real life superpowers. You just got to put a little bit more work into it. I think that's really cool. I think it's an Assassin's Creed in modern day thing. I think it's a realistic superhero thing. I think there are a lot of cool angles to this that are going to make it very successful. Because even Watch Dogs, it had good hype behind it, and even though it wasn't as amazing as we expected it did very well. I think Watch Dogs 2 is going to do even better, and it's going to last. The wave is going to last a lot longer because
you also
it
get
looks
to
great.
Customize your character more, so it's not just you in a trench coat the whole time.
Yeah, it's
and
a little creepy.
Takes place in San Francisco next to like Silicon Valley, so you have like the whole tech, and I guess it makes more sense that technology is more prominent and like accessible in that area.
Yeah, and it's a very condensed city. You have a lot you can do in a city that's that real close and tight. I'm hoping they'll mess around with personal tech as well, like the people walking around, cell phones, and things like that.
Yeah, I've seen that. You can like, there's more info on like the people that you hack, and there's like, you can make specific commands. You know, like before it was just like you would call them and it'd be like hello, hello, and like you'd be distracting them. This time you can actually like send text and have like detailed conversation. Not like you can't actually text them, but like you can choose a more in-depth texting style.
I think that's awesome. I think that's the biggest thing with tech now is people are afraid of is like how much of my life is on my phone that people can access.
I've also seen the research they do on Watch Dogs, and a lot of the stuff that they do in the game that you're like, oh, you can't actually do that in real life. It's like you actually can do a lot of that stuff in real life.
It's crazy.
Like you can totally hack a car and make it stop.
Yeah, and those wallets that keep you from literally getting long-distance credit card hacked, those are a thing, and you actually, to an extent, need those because people can get your credit card information just by walking near you. Not
get a wallet with an RFID blocker.
Yeah, not touching you, not anything, just being near you or having some of their tech near you. Your credit card can get
jacked. It goes back to like what we talked about at the beginning, where like technology and sci-fi is like, oh, that'll never happen, and then like now we're in the future, we actually have this technology. That's a lot of the stuff that you see like in movies where it's like Eagle Eye or one of those movies that you think, oh, that can't actually happen, but it's like, yeah, it can. A lot of that stuff will happen.
And on the modern superhero angle even, or the real life superhero angle, we've seen Batman where he can emulate classic powers like super strength and speed and resilience. This is essentially simulating telekinesis, simulating almost mind reading to an extent.
I've seen those videos online where like someone will go into an area, go on even just like basic stuff, go on Instagram, find people near me, and they'll like find info of stuff of people around them, and they'll go up to them and be like, hey, I know you, I know that you have this, I know last week you were in Cancun, and it's like someone can know everything about you in like a matter of minutes.
It's pretty fantastic, and I think there's a very high ceiling for this game, and I could definitely see a trilogy happening.
There's also more
as
parkour.
Things progress.
It looks like it's better movements.
I'm so happy that parkour is becoming a bigger thing in games, because I was very into that scene.
It just makes sense, especially with games that like to get around you would need a fast mobility.
And you can't make parkour into a sports game really, because it's just hard to do that right. So add it into other games.
Except for like Mirror's Edge.
Mirror's Edge was a good parkour game, I guess, but it wasn't like a sports game. It wasn't like you were going to competitions and all that. But I think Dying Light did it really well. Their parkour physics are really good. And I think that if they're anything like that in Watch Dogs, that would be super cool.
It just seems like a logical leap, especially with open world games, to have that kind of parkour element to it.
And you have this kind of new agey kind of superhero type dude where his abilities are tangible, but they still make him very significant and exceptional.
And technically he is a criminal, so you would need a way to quickly get away.
Absolutely.
It all makes sense. Speaking of things that make sense, the melee ability you have in this game is and it's a real thing. One of the behind the scenes, they talk about how they looked up how real people in real life can go online and like DIY self-defense. They get a billiard ball, they screw a hole through it, and they tie a rope through it and like tie it up, and you're just like slinging it at people. And they were like, it's super fast and it just knocks people out.
That's really cool. That is awesome. All right, well, I think we should close out with the top 5.
Oh, top 5? Okay.
Yeah, let's do top 5.
My
Robert's
top 5.
Robert's top 5. And then I'll do mine.
Number 5, Resident Evil 7. Number 4, Mass Effect Andromeda. Number 3, Spider-Man. Number 2, Detroit Become Human, I guess. And then number 1, Watch Dogs 2. That's probably going to be my one that I want.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. Trey's top 5.
Trey's top 5.
Number 5. So Madden 17 is on my top 5 because I know it's going to be good, and I know I'm going to buy it. My number 4, Watch Dogs 2 is my number 4. I'll put Watch Dogs 2 as my number 4. Number 3, we are going to go with South Park, Fractured Butthole. Really stoked about that. I love everything Trey and Matt make. Number 2, Spider-Man. And number 1, obviously, because of how excited I got about it, is going to be Mafia 3.
It would have been great if you were like, and number 1, Final Fantasy. I didn't talk about it, but huge fan.
Yeah, obviously huge fan. Sony exclusives are my favorite.
All right, I think that's going to be it for the first episode of Game Station. If you like the video or podcast or whatever this comes out on, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to share with your friends. We have a Twitter at Legion_of_nerd. We have a Facebook page. Make sure to like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. I've been Robert.
And I've been Trey.
Classic sign out.
Beautiful.